This episode of Selling with Social is brought to you by the 10th annual AAISP Leadership Summit, where the sales community comes together to learn, share, and network. Join Vengreso and your sales peers April 3rd through the 5th, 2018 in Chicago by visiting bit.ly/AAISP 2018 and use the code LEADERSHIP1095 at registration. And now to Selling with Social.
Bob's conversion rate is this much lower than Susan's conversion rate over here, or his velocity at this other step is faster. And why is that? Where you start to dig into some of those nuggets, like that's where you find stuff like, oh, they're doing something differently. And I can use that as a tool to train the team better to improve all of their metrics across the board.
Hey y'all, welcome to Selling with Social, the podcast that helps marketers increase marketing qualified leads, sales reps to shatter sales results, and sales leaders to grow as leaders. Each show, we interview sales, marketing, and social media practitioners, leaders, and influencers to help you connect, close more deals, build stronger relationships with clients, and improve your sales productivity. I'm Mario Martinez Jr. You're now listening to Selling with Social. Matt Ostanik, I am super excited, my friend, to have you join me on Selling with Social. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Mario, it's great to be here. I'm really excited to be on the show today and appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
You're welcome. And why I'm actually so excited about this conversation is because, honestly, Matt, you're the first person that we've had in a year's worth of episodes that we're talking about the funnel, the pipeline, the sales funnel, and getting down and dirty into, how do we actually manage this funnel so that we can actually do better and sell more and, quite frankly, make more money for everyone, including ourselves individually. But before we get into that, you are the CEO and founder of FunnelWise. Would you do me a favor? Just take a few minutes, talk about who you are, your background, so our audience gets to know who you are.
Yeah, glad to. So I usually introduce myself by saying that I'm a serial entrepreneur. That's really my background. FunnelWise is one of my current babies, but I've had others in the past as well. And I'll tell you a quick story from the last one, which tells you a bit more about FunnelWise too. My last company before FunnelWise was a software as a service company that had a great software product that we sold in commercial construction. We worked with architects and contractors around the country. Actually, it was a platform they used for managing documents during the construction process. And I started that company and grew it over a number of years. It eventually was acquired by a larger company, and that company was in turn acquired by Oracle, a little company called Oracle that you may have heard of.
Just a small one.
Yes, but I had a sales marketing team that worked for me at that last business. We used Salesforce as our CRM. We used a number of other tools. And I've always been a data guy. I like numbers. I like digging into those details. And, tools like CRMs are great, in my opinion, for capturing information about what happens in the past, at least if you use them properly, right? So as a business leader at my last company, I could go in and I could look at, how many demos did my sales team complete last week, or how many new prospects did marketing add to our funnel? But I couldn't get the types of insights that I wanted about where we were going in the future. Like, did I have enough stuff happening higher up in my funnel for my team to hit our sales goal for this quarter or next quarter or the quarter after that? Those were the types of questions that drove me nuts. And I used to try and answer that manually by downloading a bunch of data and building Excel spreadsheet models, crunching all the numbers to try and figure out where we were going. And probably even more importantly than that, what did I need to tell the team to do differently? Where were our weaknesses? Where did we need to make adjustments in our sales process? Who was performing and who wasn't? Those types of issues. Again, very manual, cumbersome process. Sometimes worked in my previous business. Sometimes we had some real misses. I had one particular quarter where we had a very traumatic ending to it because we didn't have enough insight into where we were going in the future and ended up missing our quota widely. And, if you've lived enough in sales leadership, we've all had those experiences at one point or another, right? But it was that experience, that last business, that after I sold and left that previous company, that I said, hey, I want to give people a better tool. I want to build a tool that can take your sales data and take your marketing data and help other companies be better at some of these challenges And I also want to build the tool that I wish I would have had in my previous business as well. And so that gives you a little bit of what FunnelWise does today, but also why I'm in this business because of that past experience, if that makes sense.
So this is a rare quality that you'll find in somebody. One, that you're an analytical guy, right? You're down into the weeds in terms of the numbers and sense, but you're clearly an entrepreneur with a successful leadership background because you sold a company, which was then acquired by Oracle, and now you're on to the next one. And then the fourth element is you're a sales guy too. that combination of qualities usually aren't found in one single person. So I commend you for that.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. And I mean, every good entrepreneur has to be a sales guy, right? I mean, if you can't sell your own stuff, then nobody's going to be able to sell it for you for sure.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Well, my team, I bog them down in the levels of details and I'm like, no, man, this, we got to know these pieces of information. Fantastic. So, I want to get right into talking about this topic here. We call it the sales funnel, the sales pipeline. Oftentimes you hear, marketing may call it, the top of the funnel down through the funnel, right? We'll hear sales leaders talk about, the sales pipeline and what's in your pipeline today, what's going to close. But overall, in my opinion, I think funnel management today is probably one of the worst, most poorly managed aspects of a salesperson's day, month, analysis, analytics, whatever you want to call it, along with the rest of the freaking organization as well, right? In fact, the history of CRM was actually created for executives who were on the hook with boards to be able to tell them, hey, what are you going to sell, right? So they created this thing called CRM, which is supposed to be like the greatest thing since sliced bread for sales organizations, which has now become our worst enemy. But it's really for purposes of financial tracking and reporting. And I know that you're not a CRM solution, but talk a little bit about the problem with funnel management today. I mean, do you agree with me? Is this a big area? And is it a big problem? And what is or are those problems?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And, for many people in sales, funnel management has become synonymous with, managing your CRM data. And I don't have an official stat. I probably should. This would be a fun survey to do, but I certainly can tell you anecdotally, right? I mean, and you know this too.
Yeah.
Anybody that's spending time in sales usually doesn't like their CRM that much. Maybe they do if they're a manager and they're looking at the stuff, but then they usually get unhappy that their team isn't updating the stuff enough. But if you're a sales performer out there, working your butt off to try and close deals and keep customers happy and do everything else, probably the last thing on your favorite to-do list is keeping stuff up to date in your CRM as well. It's a common pain point and a huge challenge. Funnels are complicated as a whole, right? And with digital transformations, how selling has changed, how marketing is changing, it's made them even more complicated. Today, it's gotten really, really challenging for folks. What's exciting about it, what I get excited about, again, as a data guy, is with the tools that people use, whether it's CRMs and other things, there's so much data flowing around out there that if you can capture it and analyze it properly, there's very powerful insights to help not just sales leadership, but individual sellers as well. But there's big, big challenges around doing that because of all the change and just the glut of technology that's out there producing those data points as well. From a company perspective, the big benefit of doing that properly is being able to plan the future, right? Where are we going in the future? Are we going to hit our goals or not? What changes do we need to make to our strategy? And if you're a CEO or another high-level role, you've got somebody else you're accountable to. So you want to be making commitments to your board, to your investors, to whoever on we're going to hit our forecast or not. It too often hasn't been enough of a tool for the individual sellers. And I think that's where we're going to see big changes in the market in the next several years, though, as well. When you really harness the data properly, there's ways to get very powerful insights out of it. I always say your data tells a story, and most people don't have access to that story today. But when you can get to it, it can give you really rich insights that can help you as an individual seller as well. So there's big challenges, but big opportunities with proper funnel management and using your data for that.
So let's talk about this for a second, because every organization has a problem with the funnel management piece, right? And trying to sort through the data, what's real, what's not real, what's actually a deal that's really closable and doable. Reps oftentimes put bad data in, just to be able to make sure that they've got a good funnel so that they can stay off the radar screen. You'll put a deal in, you'll say it's a 60% close rate, and you're in, contract negotiation when you haven't even sent out a proposal yet, right?
Yeah.
So we know we have all those types of problems, but fundamentally, I believe that the problem exists down at the rep level, right? I'm just inputting data to be able to tell everybody above me, stay off my back. But if I actually had the ability to analyze the data I was putting in, to be able to help me forecast, shoot, I actually have a close ratio of whatever it's going to be, 10%, 20%. I actually don't have enough in my pipeline to be able to hit this month's, this quarter's, this year's numbers. I really believe that if we can enhance the funnel management and analytics and data analytics experience down to the salesperson, that it will automatically fix things up top. What do you think about that?
Yes, I completely agree with you. I mean, there's not enough, many systems today, there's not enough value for the person doing the data entry. Like you do it because your boss tells you have to.
Exactly.
It's not creating value for you as an individual. And that's something that radically needs to change, being able to provide value back to you as a seller. I also think with technology, there's going to be more and more ways to streamline that old school manual data entry. I mean, if you think about it, why do I have to go type everything into a clunky CRM? Why can't I grab some of those updates automatically? Most sales professionals are trading emails of some kind with prospects and customers. Why can't we capture that stuff automatically? You can capture some of that today, right? But it's even improving, and there's big opportunities in that. Or with tools like conversational intelligence and other things, why can't we grab phone conversations and capture that automatically? I think you're going to see a rise of a lot more automation in the space, which will help the problem. So I guess I'm agreeing with you, Mario. I think part of it is that we got to fix it at the rep level, give more value to the folks that are doing the data entry. But I also think there'll be ways to automate that more and more and produce some of the insights and value without having to be a burden on their day of them spending hours just typing something into an old school CRM.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. We're evaluating several different tools for our own organization. And I literally was on a call this morning where I was trying to figure out, and it was very frustrating to the sales team that was working with me and our leadership team. But I said, I want to know what is the experience that the salesperson will have. You show me that. I don't care about the analytics. I do. I don't care about the analytics on the back end because we can work and massage that data. But what is the salesperson going to view? How are they going to get value out of this? What is it going to tell them? Show me the reporting for that. And it was interesting because the conversation was, well, most of our customers aren't asking for that. And I was like, what? Why? If I don't have the data as a salesperson, how do I make better educated decisions? Like, well, you can see 500 lines of different types of leads that we manage. Wait a minute. Graphically represent that for me in something easy to digest, right? So for me, that I cannot disagree with you. I think that's an area that we need to focus in on which leads me to my next question really with you is you obviously have funnel-wise, right? There's obviously value that you guys are bringing to managing the funnel and providing analytics. How do we as salespeople, how do we stop leaving money on the table?
Yeah, that's a tough question, right? I mean, I think we have to, as salespeople, we have to get smarter about using our data and understanding the story it's telling us and capturing that to help us be more successful, to sell more, to make our companies more successful, to make our customers more successful as well. I do want to add, we're talking about technology, right? So we're talking about updating CRMs and automation and all that. A few years ago, when I started FunnelWise, I initially did view this as just a technology problem, right? Like there just need to be better tools for the data. It is true there are technology gaps. We're trying to solve part of it. There's other tools that help with parts of it. One big learning I've had in the past several years, though, is it's more than just a technology problem, though. I mean, there is a people side of it, which is us as sales professionals and as marketing leaders who we work with as well, getting better at knowing what to look at and how to communicate and talk about it with others in our organizations as well. And again, initially a few years ago, I thought, hey, I'm just going to build this awesome technology tool and put it in people's hands. And then I realized there's a lot of education that needs done in the market. The market is in a state of evolution about learning about just how to apply data. Everybody knows data is important. Everybody's heard the phrase big data, but how do we use that in our day-to-day sales and marketing activities? People are still learning about that. So not to put in a small plug, but I will. A couple of years ago, I wrote a book called Revenue Funnel Science. And revenue funnel science is just the catchphrase that we've coined to try and describe the methodology. And as an experienced sales leader yourself, you'd read it and you'd recognize a lot of the things in it, right? It's really a set of best practices for how companies should look at and use the data as well. So it's how you capture this stuff. It's how you use it to predict the future, but then it's also how do I talk to people about it? How do I get marketing and sales professionals in the same room and have a productive conversation about what's going on in our funnel as a whole that helps the business That's a really important part of it, managing that as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and the name of the book again was what again?
Revenue Funnel Science, How to Optimize Your Marketing and Sales Funnel. And again, a bit of a plug for it, but you can actually download it for free off our website at funnelwise.com. Fill it out. It's a 200-page book, so it's thick, but it's got a lot of helpful information in it. But we've also, if you read some of our other content, we've been able to spin out a lot of it as well. But ultimately, it's this concept of it's not just tools are awesome. We need tools, but we also need to understand what we're trying to do with our data to be successful.
Yeah. And we'll make sure for our listeners that we'll put that into the show notes so that if they want to grab hold of the book, that they certainly can grab hold of the book as well. So we'll put a link there. I want to get down and dirty, right? Yeah. Into some concepts. And, look, these are not commercials for companies, right? This is thought leadership, but you clearly have a great app and you clearly are helping sales leaders have a better performing funnel, as well as marketing leaders, by the way, right? I mean, like the funnel starts oftentimes with marketing and it ends with sales, or it can start with sales as well, right? Depending on who's doing the prospecting and who's, bringing leads to the top of the funnel. But give us some down and dirty into things that sales leaders or marketing leaders need to think about in terms of managing the funnel and or sourcing the funnel and how they can be better, whether it's through technology, whether it's through analytics. And before you answer that question, I want to take a short break and listen to this message from our program sponsor. I'm super excited to share that Vengreso will be joining the AAISP and hundreds of sales leaders in Chicago for the 10th annual AAISP Leadership Summit, April 3rd through the 5th, 2018. In fact, I personally will be presenting and I want to invite you to join me. The Leadership Summit brings together sales leaders from around the globe for a learning experience unlike any other. Attendees will find workshops, group learning, a technology expo packed full of today's leading solution and service providers, and of course, the infamous annual Inside Sales Award Gala. To receive your deeply discounted rate, visit bit.ly/AAISP2018. That's bit.ly/AAISP2018 and use the code leadership1095 at registration for an amazing Vengreso only discount. So right before we took that short break, I asked you to give us some down and dirty into 1, 2, 3 things that we need or should have to be able to drive better funnel management. Ideas. We're open. And obviously, you're probably going to lead us to FunnelWise, but tell us more about what we can do and how we need to be thinking about our funnel.
Yeah, I would start with, make sure you've got your funnel defined. I use the term funnel blueprint in my book and in conversations, which just is a definition of what you think your funnel should be. And companies may have multiple blueprints, right? If you're selling different products or you've got different groups or business units, they may have different blueprints. And blueprints change over time as companies evolve as well. That's perfectly okay. But ultimately, a blueprint is, the stages or steps or milestones that you take a prospective customer on from point of first contact through them being a happy paying customer of your company. Map that out and make sure you're talking about it and it's well communicated. It's shocking to me how many times we talk to companies and we say, do you have a funnel blueprint? We explain what that means. Oh yeah, we've got that. Well, can you send us a copy of the written documentation? Well, we've never written it down. Okay, well, that's a good starting point. Even if it's a 1-page bullet point summary, get that out there and defined about how you think it should work or what the steps are. And make sure your sales team understands it. And if you've got in a company where there's marketing that's helping to feed the funnel or engage with the funnel, make sure they understand it and have agreed to it. That's step 1, defining a blueprint. Step 2 is capture your data. Whether it's coming out of your CRM or you're drawing from other sources, make sure you can track some of the metrics about what's moving through your funnel. And you can get to core metrics. If you look at the book, we talk about some of the foundational things. I talk about movement. What's actually moving and changing in your funnel? What your conversion rates are from one step to the next. And then velocity is a really important part of it. The amount of time it's taking for things to move. Where do they spend more time? Where do they spend less? Capture some of those key metrics. And then once you have those foundational items in place, you can start to stitch them together to understand more of that forward-looking view, right? Based on how fast things are moving and the average amount of time and what's sitting there in my funnel today, are we on track for the future or not? And, if you're a one-person sales organization selling a smaller quantity of things, you can do that in an Excel spreadsheet. If you had a larger team or higher volume, yeah, our tool works great to help you with that. There's other tools as well, but you can stitch that stuff together to figure out where you're going. And then the next step is, where can I improve, right? Where are the intelligence areas and the opportunities for improvement? And what I love to do with let's say I've got a 5-person sales team, right? You could put together their funnel metrics. You can slice it out by each of the team members and look at not just, you probably already know who's closing the most deals, right? You can probably see that across the team. But with each step in the process, who's got the better conversion rates and velocities? And what are they doing differently? If one person on the team is particularly good about taking marketing qualified leads and converting them into a demo, what are they doing differently to accomplish that? You can start to drill in and figure out, data will point you in the right direction. And then you match that up with what you actually see the people doing and how that's performing as well. So I guess I'm talking about it from a management perspective. I could answer it from an individual perspective too. But from a management side, those are oftentimes the steps you go through to figure out, am I on track or not? And how do I really optimize and grow what I'm getting? Does that make sense?
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. Yeah. So blueprint, capture your data, and then identify where can I improve by using some sort of intelligent view, if you would, or analytics. Going back to your number 2, which is capture your data. These are things that obviously, I think if I were to ask, I don't know, let's take any number, 10 sales leaders and said, what is your conversion rate?
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't know that. What is the velocity of the deals and how fast they quickly travel through the average velocity of a deal through the pipeline? They wouldn't know that. I don't even know that. Right? And also, before you even get to the conversion rate, you got to get to, from a prospecting perspective, how many conversations does it take to actually get a deal into the pipeline?
Yeah.
And then once you have a deal in the pipeline, now you can start talking about what's the velocity, what's the conversion rate.
Yeah.
And I think those 3 areas alone, most leaders, we don't know those analytics. And quite frankly, for our sales operations and enablement leaders that are listening this is an area that they could add tremendous value in terms of providing better analytics to the sales pipeline.
Agreed. And then if you're working with a team, where it gets interesting is you break it out by individuals as well, right? Because I think some sales leaders will say, yeah, our sales cycle is about 60 days, and our conversion rates might be this. But did you know that, Bob's conversion rate is this much lower than Susan's conversion rate over here, or his velocity at this other step is faster? And why is that? Where you start to dig into some of those nuggets, that's where you find stuff like, oh, they're doing something differently. And I can use that as a tool to train the team better to improve all of their metrics across the board.
Very good. Now, do you want to you just gave us the 3 steps there: blueprint, capture data, and intelligence from a leadership standpoint. What about from an individual standpoint, an end user and sales rep? Is there any difference?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. So it's probably conceptually the same thing. I think some individuals, depending on the company, right? Are they an individual on a one-person sales team, or are they an individual in a larger entity? That might change it a little. If they're a larger entity, somebody else has probably defined a blueprint for you. Do you use it? Do you know what it is? Is it communicated well? Those are open questions. But making sure you understand that, or if you're a smaller one-person team, mapping that out for yourself is still equally as valuable. Capturing the data is still as valuable. And then the intelligence piece can be really helpful as well. And, you and I were chatting a little bit here at the beginning of the conversation as well. That's one of the big areas that we're interested in the future. With the work we've done at FunnelWise, we've worked with a ton of companies at the management level to help them grab these metrics and apply them for the company as a whole. That stuff is fun. But what we are trying to go next is helping individual sellers more as well, because there's a gap in the market there, honestly. And there's lots of frustration. CRM is a tool for management, and individual sellers get beat on to update it, but it doesn't create enough value for them. And they don't have time. I mean, there's the rare few that love the data stuff, and they'll spend their weekends or evenings crunching their own numbers and looking for insights. But come on, who actually has time for that today? And so part of what we're trying to do more of is help those individual sellers to give them tools that tells them what to do next. And so, some examples I can give you that just conceptually, right? You shared one earlier. How many times do you have to talk to a prospect or reach out to them to get an opportunity into your pipeline, right?
Right.
I will tell you, with almost every company and seller we've analyzed data from, and by the way, we have 300 million records and data points in our database that we've crunched and compared. So we've done a ton of analysis around this. there's always a pattern for the right number of times to follow up with a prospect. It's usually somewhere between 3 and 10 times, but it depends on what you're selling and what industry you're in. But when you start to dig into the data, you can see those patterns. And it's amazing to me how often you find them, and yet people aren't aware of them, so they're not actually following the optimum. Right. So you might see one where following up 6 times is where you have your maximum success rate, but yet a third of the time, you might only follow up with them 2 times or 3 times and then give up, right? Or you also see the examples of, I'm going to go contact this prospect 12 times. Well, you might be wasting your time at some point. But that's a simple example, but that when you start to dig into the data, you can get insights like that can really help you make your own work so much more efficient. And ultimately, it can help you close more deals. And I think that's hopefully what we all get excited about.
Yeah. In fact, to that point, my CMO, Bernie Borges, and I were just talking this morning about the anatomy of the inbound lead versus the outbound, right?
Yeah, they're different. Yeah.
Very, very different, right? And the length of time it takes for us to be able to move a deal through the funnel for a marketing leader versus a sales enablement leader versus an actual sales leader on an inbound, and understanding the characteristics of what those 3 different folks look like from an inbound perspective, because it's also different, those 3 different folks on the outbound side of the house. And so having those analytics will help us be able to have better insight into what do we do? Are we going to amp up our inbound lead generation strategy, or are we having better performance on the outbound side of things, right? So I think a lot of organizations are like, they'll take that dart and let me see where it's going to stick, and they throw it, right? It's like, where's it going to hit? And they're like, let's add on more inside sales folks. Let's add on more BDRs. Well, let's cut the BDRs because that program's not working. So I think the analytics will help us make better informed decisions. And I think what the things that you're talking about are a lot of things that, quite frankly, even down at the manager level, even as a manager, once before setting in the manager position, I didn't have this type of analysis being done for me or with me, or even I was able to do myself when I was working at a large Fortune 100 type of company. Yeah. And that's a grave mistake that you just cannot miss in this day and age, especially with digital introductions, right? And how many different places that we might meet a buyer at or engage with a buyer at, and all these different touch points.
Completely agree. Completely. Yes.
One of the things that we didn't talk about, though, was really, if you look at marketing, and I mentioned this earlier, sometimes marketing is the source of generation, sometimes sales is the source of generation of a lead. But why is it so important to understand the true impact of each marketing touch at every stage of a revenue funnel? Why is that critical?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons, right? So if you're a marketing leader, it's critical to understand, because it helps you with your own planning. You need to figure out what's working, what's not, and what do I need to do more of, and what do I need to do less of. And marketers in particular live in a world where budgets are always shifting. They have to defend what they're spending, what they're doing, and they have to prioritize what's making the most impact. And marketing's going through a huge transformation, right? In many companies, the B2B space, marketers are increasingly being thrust into these roles of they're accountable for pipeline. They're measured not just on leads they're handing over, but on pipeline and revenue numbers. And that's both scary and exciting, depending on the marketer.
Depending on your role.
Yes, that's valuable. It's also, from a seller's perspective, though, marketing should be your best friend and one of your greatest tools to help you not just source more deals, but close more deals.
Right.
And we were working with one of our clients, looking at some of their data with them, and they've got a marketing team that's very focused on, they fill the funnel, then they hand it over to sales. Sales takes it from there, which is great. But when we actually were looking at the impact of their marketing touches on contacts that were on opportunities that were in motion, that sales was working, but marketing was still having some interaction with them, their win rates tripled when there was a certain amount of marketing interaction happening with that account at the same time that sales was working it. And, initially their response was, well, maybe that's just people going to our website and downloading content because sales is saying, go look at this or go look at that, right? Actually, when you dug into the campaigns they were running, that wasn't it. There was actually people getting invited to events, getting emailed, and some of the standard marketing campaigns, additional information about the company. There was a very clear pattern in the data. Their win rates, if they didn't have any marketing touches during the sales process, it was a 10% win rate across the board. And if they had 3 or 4 marketing touches, it jumped up to a 30% win rate. And this is across a large set of data. It's there's something happening here. Use marketing more as your best friend, as a seller, to help you close these deals. Because when those two things work together, the data supports that everybody's more successful as a result.
Interesting you mentioned that, because one of the techniques that we teach to our sales folks on the digital sales training is when you connect with a brand new prospect, whether it's through LinkedIn or whether it's, shaking someone's hand at a live networking event, that you must send a thanks for connecting or a welcome message to that individual. And on that sales landing page, you should have content that is of value to the buyer that is going to help them. So for example, on my landing page, when I have a new connection that comes directly to me, it's going to be, you're going to receive a 30-minute free webinar on 6 digital selling strategies that are going to help you leverage LinkedIn to grow your sales pipeline. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to provide you a complimentary subscription to 12 months worth of Selling Power magazine, right? So that's going to help you learn and grow and develop. And number three, it's going to be something related to how to increase your, in this case, LinkedIn SSI score. And then, so if you got a couple items, the whole idea is bring them into the marketing drip messaging and or the marketing newsletter, because as marketing's sole purpose in life is to create content that engages with the buyers at the different phases of the buyer's journey. And to your point, what we have found as well is that if we are engaged with our buyers on the back end with even just email marketing, right? They're on our newsletter, they're getting valuable content, they're listening to our podcast, and we're working with them on the front end. That's like you're getting hit from both directions, but you're providing value on one end and you're taking them through a journey through the sales process on the other end. I'm going to give you an amen and a hallelujah to that one.
I agree. And actually, I was waiting for you to say the key word. If you didn't say it, I was going to say, but it is about value, right? And this is, sales 101, right? But create value for the prospects. Don't just be like, hey, you're going to buy from me or not. Like, help them in their journey, create value along the way. And as a seller, marketing can and should be your best friend to help you do that.
Yeah, I've been receiving this. I don't know where this template came from, but it's a new template that's out there that somebody got. And it's, hey, Mario, I noticed that you're the CEO of Vengreso. Okay, yeah, thanks. I was on your website. Okay, yeah. And my company can help you with this. And I like to set up a 15-minute meeting. And I'm like, so what did you learn about me on my website? What did you learn about my company, right? And those are just those templates. I totally digress, but it just kills me when I see those types of things.
Yeah. So really funny, random side note, but I get those same emails all the time as a CEO, right? I actually saved all of them that I received last year. I've got them in a folder, and as an analytical guy, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a little project. I'm curious to analyze these and pick out like the best and worst ones. I haven't actually had time to do that. And what is it? It's almost March now, but my goal was to get that done sometime in this first quarter. Because it's not that many, but it's, I probably get 10, 15 of those a week. And it's like, it's really interesting when you see them. But to your point, like, do your homework, take the time, really customize it. Those type of messages are so much more successful than the generic, I was on your website.
Yeah. So I'm laughing here for all of our listeners. Matt and I are sitting here looking at each other, and I'm smiling from ear to ear because I literally have, under my administrative tab, I have 2 folders, one that says emails that suck and emails that don't suck.
So you got examples already.
I got examples. Matt, you and I think this is a recipe for a webinar that we should probably do together. We should do a webinar, and we should talk about emails that suck and emails that don't suck from a buyer's perspective, right? And that would be a good one that you and I can coordinate on.
That would be totally fun. And sorry, one more random tangent on that. But I remember still, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, when people just started sending the emails that, oh, hey, I've tried you 4 times. Did a crocodile eat you? Do I need to come help you? That type of email. And that was like super funny and unique because my sales team in my old company, like, we started to churn those out because it got people's attentions.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get those too. Now those just kill me, where it's like, okay, I've seen this same email like 25 times in a row of, are you stuck in a tiger? Can I help you? Like, they used to be funny, but now they're not. Sorry, that's my random rant. But
now they're just quite annoying because everybody's already.
Okay. Well, we've got a webinar idea here for the future. That's awesome.
All right. Well, for our listeners here on Selling with Social, we'll make sure we circle back on doing a webinar here for this concept on emails that suck and emails that don't suck. All right. So last question I got for you, and going back on topic here, sales professionals, right? How can we as a sales professional leverage data to be more successful? Like, if our organization doesn't have FunnelWise as an example, right? What can I do? What are 1, 2, or 3 things that I can do right now to analyze the data the best I can to become a better seller and to become a better performer?
Yeah, I would say, basic things you can do, even if you don't have a great tool to help you analyze it, you can still understand your basic metrics, right? Not just how many deals you're closing, but it's not that hard to figure out your rough conversion rates. What are the stages? How are things converting? And what can I do to improve those? So pick one step in the process, measure yourself, Again, you're not going to have time to look at it every day or to draw out a bunch of powerful insights if you don't have tools to help you. But that shouldn't stop you from looking at it once a month and understanding how is your funnel flowing and where is an area I can pick on for improvement. Everybody focuses on improving my win rate. I just want to close more deals, right? But the key to closing more deals is to pick a little segment in the funnel first and figure out how can I improve that and just focus on those conversions from one step to the next. Or maybe it's a velocity challenge. How do I get things to move slightly faster? But pick an area, measure yourself. If you're on a team, go around and ask for best practices from other colleagues of yours. What are they doing for that step in the process? Try some of those things. If you're not on a team, go visit with other sales colleagues in other companies and ask them how they handle that. But just stay disciplined by going on that incremental journey of how do I focus on improving each little step in my process? And then use the metrics, build your own scorecard, keep track of it, and try to improve yourself over time on those base metrics beyond just your win rate.
So give me an idea of a scorecard, right? So I'm a sales rep at a big Fortune 100 company. I've got access to my sales CRM data, whether it's Salesforce, Dynamics, HubSpot, whatever. So what should I do? Should I download a report that shows my funnel? What data points am I looking at? Map something out for me.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can look at it. I hate to put in a plug again, but we've actually got a great funnel template on our website you can download for some of this too. The show notes
it makes it easy. Actually, no, but honestly, so it's a funnel template. Is that like an Excel spreadsheet?
Yes, although it's maybe a little more complicated than just for an individual seller, but it is for helping people to plan out their funnel as a whole as well.
We'll put that into the show notes. I mean, we need something of value. Is that something that we can put into the show notes here that people can download?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be glad to share that. And actually, we probably do another version of it that's even more focused on an individual seller. It might be fun to do as well. But, if you're going to build something on your own, just figure out what your key steps are, track your numbers, track how they're changing, track what those conversion rates are. You can download that data from a CRM report, or you could probably put it together manually if you have the time. But just even understanding those base numbers and tracking them over time will be very helpful to you. And then, of course, you can look for tools and other things that you can do with your CRMs or other systems to help improve that, and be talking to managers or other folks about, is that something that you can add or use would be probably helpful to you over time as well.
And Matt, what did you call that template that you were just referencing?
It's actually a funnel template, so it's pretty simple. Yes.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get that funnel template for all of our Selling with Social guests. We'll put a link into, or maybe Matt, you can send over a graphic of some sort, right?
Sure.
And we'll put that into the show notes. You can click on that graphic and it'll take you to download the funnel template, and whether you're a manager or an individual, and we'll get that into the show notes there. And actually, I'm very curious. Make sure you send it to me, please.
I will. Yes.
We might need it. But listen, Matt, this has been a great conversation. And funnel management, top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, these are all things that we have to deal with every single day, right? It's a challenge to be able to manage this. So I appreciate the conversation. If someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way? Are you on Twitter? Should they LinkedIn with you? Should they email you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, Twitter and LinkedIn are both terrific. Twitter's FunnelWise Matt, and I'm easy to find, Matt Ostanik on LinkedIn, but I love to engage on both platforms for sure. I'm a data guy, so I should close with a little bit of data too. I mean, the numbers we've seen with companies we've worked with, when you get a better handle on your funnel metrics and start to leverage them, typically you can result in anywhere from a 10 to 30% increase in closed won sales over time as well. Now, the individual circumstance varies, but that's kind of the general range we advise people on. So I know it's easy for eyes to glaze over and to say, data is someone else's problem or something I'll worry about down the road. But, how much would a 10%, 20%, 30% increase in your actual results matter to you? If that's meaningful to you, then you should spend more time on funnel metrics and data, because that's what it can get for you.
I'll give that one a hallelujah. And for those of you that are looking at Matt, we'll put it into the show notes, but it's Matt Ostanik, Ostanik on LinkedIn. And Matt, last and final question for you, my friend. We like to ask all-time favorite movie, but we're going to change it up on this show. We're looking for the all-time favorite place to travel to. Where is it?
I would have to say it'd be France because of the food. It's just so amazing, right? You really can't beat French food at all. So absolutely. Don't get there as often as I would like these days. Too many other things going on. But my wife and I have had several great trips to Paris and other regions, and the French food is just amazing.
Well, I'm glad you had a great experience. I had a horrible experience, and I
really
want to go back there again. But that's
my gosh, we'll have to save that. We'll put that in the webinar later too.
Yeah, exactly. We'll save that for another conversation. Well, listen, everybody, Matt Ostanik, great to have you, CEO and founder of FunnelWise. Fantastic conversation. And for those of you listening in, don't tune out. Listen to this message right now. Don't forget to join Vengreso and hundreds of sales leaders from around the globe April 3rd through the 5th, 2018 in Chicago for the 10th annual AAISP Leadership Summit. To receive your deeply discounted rate, visit bit.ly/AAISP 2018. That's bit.ly/AAISP 2018. And use the code LEADERSHIP1095 at registration for an amazing Vengreso only discount. Thanks so much for joining me on that episode of Selling with Social. I hope you found as much value in that episode as I did. Here's what I want you to do next. Please go to www.vengreso.com. That's VENGRESO.com. VENGRESO.com. And make sure that you get access to our content. We've got the latest and greatest in digital sales, sales training, content marketing, and social selling strategies that are going to help you grow your sales pipeline. I look forward to having you on the next show of Selling with Social. Make sure you also go to vengreso.com/podcast to be able to get access to the latest and greatest Selling with Social episodes, along with any of the other episodes that we've got from Social Business Engines with my friend and partner, Bernie Borges. Thanks again for joining on Selling with Social.